Hey folks, it's me, Jake Baldino, and today we're talking about the SEGA Genesis Mini. The SEGA Genesis Mini. Jesus, Tom, almost broke the light. The SEGA Genesis Mini. Check it out. This is
upside down.
This is the newest mini console to hit the block. Yes, I know there are easier ways to get access to these games, but some people just like the convenient package and the novelty of this thing, and that's absolutely what it is. Spoiler alert, we're having a lot of fun with this thing. It's cool, it checks all the boxes, and it passes the easy tests with flying colors, but let's just jump into it. So the original SEGA Genesis released in 1989 in North America, and as the Mega Drive in Europe in 1990. It was a 16-bit console, and, you know, they were thinking after selling a cool million or so of its predecessor, the Master System, Sega went to even bigger leagues with SEGA Genesis as its follow-up that put it on the hardware map. I mean, maybe not sales figures-wise, but definitely in the hearts and minds of young kids such as myself. It also, of course, sparked the beginnings of the console wars with stuff like the famous marketing phrase, Genesis does what Nintendo don't. Look, the SEGA Genesis is important. Don't let people tell you otherwise. But with the SEGA Genesis Mini, it's $80, so it's on the pricier side of this type of fun hardware, but it checks a lot of the boxes you'd come to expect with this thing. First off, it has USB-based controller ports, does come with 2 of them, nicely enough, which helps with the price. It's got an AC adapter and an HDMI out port. Design-wise, really, it's almost like an exact recreation of the old console, but like there's even attention to detail on stuff like the ports and the volume slider that aren't just total pieces of plastic, including the actual slot for the cartridge. It feels a bit fun, and like they actually cared. I don't know, most people won't notice, but I don't know, I did. Interestingly enough, though, they went for the 3-button controller option as opposed to the 6-button layout that I'm used to. So the 3-button version was the first version. They updated it later in the Genesis's life, and it was embraced kind of by fighting game fans. Now, you're not missing out on too much by not having all the buttons, but some games here, like, you know, Street Fighter, are going to support it if you want. And thankfully, apparently Sega will offer a 6-button version of the Genesis controller. So if you're feeling nasty, you can go for it. You can do it. Now, video-wise, it outputs at 720. You know, you can play in 4x3 or stretch it out. If you're playing 4x3, you have 3 wallpaper options. There's also the modern Save Anywhere feature that works simple and seamless like you'd expect from a more modern game console thing. If you hold down the start button while you're in game or whatever, it pulls up the menu, which is a nice convenient feature where you can actually save and load and also reset the game or return to the main menu without having to get your ass up off the couch. Games are organized really nicely. You can kind of like zoom out and look at the spines of the game almost like on a shelf, which is a nice touch. Also, we were messing around with the settings and accidentally hit the language button and stumbled upon this. I mean, like, this is really nice attention to detail. Look at that art. But anyways, there are 42 games on this sucker. Honestly, you know, like a pretty impressive amount. It's got some great stuff, but a ton of glaring omissions at the same time. On a positive side, like, of course, it has stuff like Sonic, Earthworm Jim, Tetris, Vector Man, my favorite, Altered Beast, Streets of Rage, Toe Jam and Earl, Street Fighter 2, Castlevania Bloodlines. These are some highlights for me personally. I can't name them all here, but they're available. But the SEGA Genesis was an underrated gaming machine, really, with its games. It's not brought up as much as stuff like the Super Nintendo, but man, like when Sega was on a high, they were awesome. And this collection of games, while flawed, I think is a really perfect representation of just how things felt at the time. But my only criticism, I wish it had more licensed games. Like, for me as a kid, the Genesis was so exciting because, you know, it had the very edgy, at the time, Mortal Kombat, and that was great. But it had the cool kid licensed stuff like Spider-Man games and X-Men games, as well as Aladdin, The Lion King, and, you know, a bunch more, like NBA Jam. You know, this is sort of specific to my gaming childhood and what I would want, and I get that Sega can't go out there and negotiate the rights to every freaking thing, but I just wish we had some more licensed games. Also, if we're talking about missing games, where's Sonic and Knuckles? But still, you know, playing and accessing these games feels good. We're not emulation experts or retro experts by any means. You know, we're not going to blow smoke or anything at you guys, but you know, most games feel good with minimal issues. It doesn't totally feel like a half attempt cash grab like the bummer Sony PS1 Mini kind of was. Really, I think despite the big misses, the games on offer here are solid and lots of fun. The 2 controllers is really appreciated. Overall build quality is great. Software features are simple, but like, you know, just enough. Ultimately, I think 80 bucks is a tad bit steep, but bottom line, this is going to make a lot of people happy, whatever type of fan you are, whatever type of age you are. So I think it's a good, simple buy. That's it, really. These things are usually pretty straightforward, so consider it. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for checking this out. If you learned something about this and maybe we helped your buying decision, maybe considering hitting that like button, because that does actually really help us out. We'd appreciate that. Also, if you're new, it's worth considering subscribing and hitting the notification bell, because we put out videos every single day. But, you know, as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.